Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, Mark May,
Here.
Ashley? Here. John?
Yes.
Present.
Okay, Jason?
Here.
Samantha? John? Samantha?
Not here.
Mark?
Here.
Thomas? Samantha?
Yes, here.
John? Samantha?
Not here.
Mark?
Here.
Thomas? Samantha?
This is Tom.
Okay, so we could start with.
All right, Irma, thank you. It looks like for the record, Samantha is jumping on currently.
Yes.
Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Samantha. Glad you could both join us. So with that, has everyone looked at the agenda? Anyone need to make any changes or suggestions to the agenda? Do we need to vote on this anymore, Tori? It looks like we don't have to even take are we just saying that this is do we need to vote on these things anymore? Looking at the agenda?
Yeah, so just approval of the agenda,
Okay.
just like we did last time. So the number 2 item. So I guess it would be one of those where if there are any changes, but you could, make a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting.
Okay. Any emotions to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mark. Second? I'll second. Jeff Miller seconds. Thank you, Samantha, for coming in third. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Agenda approved. Moving on to the minutes, everyone had an opportunity to go through the minutes of what, last month or the month before? If so, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Mark.
Second.
Thank you, Sam. Any discussion? Awesome. Move. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Perfect. Motion moves forward. Public appearance, public comment. I don't see anyone here that isn't on the board or here to speak to the board, so we will just move past that. So with that, we are moving on to item number 5 on the agenda. We have Commissioner Mordorst here from Polk County. City Councilor Stapleton is here to address us, and then everyone saw that Councilor Varney had a family situation and will try and jump on, but not probably likely. So with that, Tori, who do we want to start with on the agenda?
Yeah.
It shows Polk County first, but it doesn't matter.
Please. Yeah, if we could start with Lyle.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Well, with that, Lyle, good morning. Thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everybody. And I want to start by telling you thank you for serving on this board. Getting people involved is the utmost importance to make our communities thrive and keep moving forward. We need people's input. And I know Virginia will share my thoughts. When you're an elected official, so many people forget to pick up the phone and give you a call. They forget you're a person. And we are all in the same game trying to make our communities and our roads safer and better places to live. So thanks for volunteering and serving. I just want to give you a quick rundown where we're at on the highways and the roads here in Polk County. I'm going to start out at Highway 22 and Highway 18, Fort Hill Road, which is out at the casino. We've been working on that for 3 years. We're almost to a design acceptance. There's a few minor flaws we got to work through, but the board came to, we're going to focus on northbound Highway 22 from the intersection for Kissing Rock. If you guys are familiar with that at all, if you get to 18, take a ride on 22, like going out to up north there. About a half a mile up there, there's a rock that sticks out over the highway. It's a very sharp corner. For the trucks to come around that, they have to swing into the other lane. It's already narrow and it's blind. So we can't get the truckers. They don't like using that. Then we get to 18, they have to stop, and trying to get back on to 22 eastbound is almost impossible. So we're going to fix the kissing rock. We're going to round out all those corners, open it up. That's going to be the first phase of that project. They're working on that right now. We're getting ready. We're almost ready to go for funding, and that's going to be the focus there. Then we'll work on to the interchange after we get that first phase done. It will be an overpass north-south. 22 will come over 18 right there just east of the casino. Coming inward, we are Highway 22 and Kings Valley Road. That is where Maduri Packing Shed is, up on top of the hill there, right out from Dallas. That is going to be a roundabout. We are in the initial phases of design work right now, in location, all the environmental studies. They are out there taking a look for any variations of altitude, all the design work. But we've got basic ideas of where the road's going to lie. That whole intersection has got to be redesigned. I thought, and here's the tire guy, now a commissioner. We went all through this roundabout design on 22 and Cloud Corner, and we came up with a great design. I thought we would take that same design and just slide it up here and then reconfigure it, but that's not how it works. You have to start back at ground one and then go through all of the steps. It's a great process. We got some great people working on it. They're moving ahead very rapidly. But that also is going to include the realignment of Perrydale Road on the north side of 22, where Perrydale comes down into. That road will be shifted across the top of the hill over into Kings Valley. So all be included into one. So the northbound Perrydale Road and Highway 22 intersection that we know at the base of the hill, that will be eliminated. That's been one of the most dangerous intersections on the West Coast for the last 2 or 3 years. A ton of accidents down there, and we can just eliminate that to be a whole lot safer. And then we're taking care of 2 intersections at the same time. And here's where I'd always heard ODOT was so hard and difficult to deal with. I know we've got some ODOT people here today. It's been completely the opposite. They have been great, open for suggestions, open comments. I've got Austin McWiggins, our planning director, and Todd Whitaker, our public works director. We're working directly with the designers, all the engineers. It's just been a great relationship, and we're getting a lot done. So hats off to ODOT, because it's not what I've heard in the past when I was a tire guy working with the city of Salem and Torrey and everything. I know that they all have these rules and guidelines they have to follow, and that's something we have to respect. And once we figure out how to help them get through that, things go a lot quicker. But that's moving right rapidly. That's roughly a 26, 27 build. So we're looking 5 years from now. Hopefully we'll be in construction. On 99W and Cloud, just in between Rickrell and Independence. As you know, that's been on the map forever. That got shelved because we were in a conflict between a roundabout and a streetlight, and that's Polk County and ODOT again. We resolved all those issues. It's going to be a roundabout. Right now it's in the right-of-way phase purchasing. That should be going to bid in this spring of 2023, and it will be done in the spring of 2024, spring this summer. But that's moving along really well. Again, that's been that teamwork and getting things done. Highway 22 and 51, which is getting a lot closer to Salem, and now it's close to home. We all know where that one is. That was the #1 project when I got appointed to commissioner. I was approached to chair that and take that on, and let's get this done. It had been put on the shelf because they found that there was some ecological slide areas right there at the base of Wilkes-Barre Road. So they just took the job and put it on a shelf and said it can't be done. We went back, restudied it, because Polk County studies, we differed from the state. So Polk County and the state, we split the costs. We do a new study and found out that there is a slide, but it's very deep. So it can be mitigated for the cuts and balances to put a road through there. We can make it work without causing any more danger to the region. In 22, we know that road is one of the most extreme roads around here. You've got trucks doing 70 miles an hour in a 55 zone because everybody's in a hurry to get to where they're going. We've got all of the tourists coming through there, gawking at the beautiful areas that we live in, and they're trying to get to the coast or they're trying to get home. And then you've got the farmer come through with this tractor and implement doing you 25 miles an hour. And then everybody's trying to go left turns across the roads. It's just a chaotic place. There's been some major intersection or major accidents and stuff out there. And we were moving really well, but we ran out of the time frame, had to go back to Federal Highway Administration. They were going to close that project down. Again, Polk County ODOT teamed up. We did a great presentation to them. They gave us the extension because of how much work we've accomplished in the last 3 years. We've got some designs that we're working on right now. We have to do a small environmental assessment to keep Federal Highway Administration happy. The state hired David Evans and Associates to help get us through that study, expedite a little quicker. They're also helping us with design this whole time. We're not stopping on design and waiting. We're staying actively and progressive of getting these designs done. We're hopefully that we're going to have a couple of designs that we can bring to the public and start having some open houses on this soon. There's a lot of rumors going around. I've met with a lot of people in Liminium. There's not going to be 3 or 4 overpasses, and there's not going to be 2 or 3 roundabouts. It is a very good design that we're working on, and we're just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. We got wetlands, we got hills, we got the slides, we got so many intersections come through, and most importantly for me, we have a lot of residents and businesses out there that we need to protect. And that's been my whole focus, is we got to make this work, but we got to keep those jobs and those people's livelihoods safe, secure, and protected. So that is a really quick rundown. There's a whole lot of other intersections we're working on, but those are the key ones right now that kind of absorbing a lot of my time, most of it. But I'm open for any questions or anything that anybody might have.
Thank you, Lyle. I had a quick question. I didn't see anyone else unmuting, but you said there at Perrydale Road and Highway 22, what that kind of, it does that kind of weird bend right before it hits 22. What were you saying again, that how that's changing?
So when you're coming from Perrydale back to heading south, Highway 22, you get to the top of the bench and then you drop down that bench. Well, right there, before you drop down, you're actually going to turn left. You're going to cut across those fields and you're going to come out there by Maduri's, and you'll come right into the new Kings Valley 22 roundabout. So that one intersection, ODOT was going to do a roundabout on top and try to do a roundabout at the bottom of Perrydale back in 2006. But with the Perrydale Road, there's wetlands. You've got all of the elevation changes from the hillsides to one. You got that creek going through there. It was just too expensive. And then trying to find a flat enough area to put a roundabout just didn't work. So they kind of set that back. And now, rather than trying to mitigate all of that down there in the bottom, let's just eliminate that whole northbound. We'll move it over and we'll do one intersection. It'll actually save us about $5 to $6 million. And then in today's cost, probably closer to 10 with the cost of yours. And I see Anna Henson joined us. So everybody rise. Anna's here. So Anna, would you like to throw anything in on this?
I'm sorry, I missed part of that. I was having audio connection, so I had to disconnect and then reconnect. So Commissioner Mordhorst, were you talking about Kings Valley Highway roundabout or Orr's Corner? I missed
They were talking about the Perrydale Road realignment and the Kings Valley Highway.
Got it. I don't have anything to add at this time. And then, as you all may already know, that Astrid Potter is going to be joining us for an update. She's our interim construction manager right now. We lost Vidal Francis. He went down to Springfield to be an area manager down there, which is good for Springfield, bad for us. And so I'm not sure where Astrid is. She'll have more information. She's got a little PowerPoint presentation she's going to share with you. But one thing I do just want to say is I really appreciate Polk County's partnership and both of this the King Valley Highway project. There's a lot of challenges again on that project, as well as the Cloud Corner project. So we're excited for both of those projects to get done, and then yeah, we've got other projects planned too for Polk County. Commissioner, we'll have to talk about that offline.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, great. Any other questions for Lyle? Just looking around, I'm not seeing anything here. So Lyle, always a pleasure, and thank you for jumping on. And I know that you served on this board for many, many years. So again, thank you for your service, not just on this board, but also as county commissioner in Polk County. So thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thanks for all the tires that I've had to buy from you over the years. That was always a real pleasure as well.
You're still enjoying them. We're good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, with that, let's shift gears over to Councilor Stapleton. Councilor, good morning. Always a pleasure to see you. I think I just saw you last month at one of the chamber meetings. And so welcome to West Salem Redevelopment Advisory Board, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, it's been great, and I'm glad to finally be getting here. I think this is my first meeting with you all, so I'll be doing a lot of listening today just to kind of get the lay of the land and see how I can be of assistance. Lyle, I have to say that Les Schwab saved my husband and I when we were in over by Lapine this summer. Our trailer tire went out. And it literally busted through the metal wheel, just kind of like shredded apart. And so they were there and able to help us. So I was thinking about you while we were out camping and the long relationship that I had with you there in West Salem. For those of you who don't know, I used to own a landscaping company, and Lyle was always there for us, helping us out with not only our personal rigs, but also business ones. So a long time relationship with Lyle, and it's great to be on meetings with him now and just experience this type of service on a different kind of path than what he and I met on. So it's good. And I echo his comments as well. Thank you so much for serving. It's so great to see community members at events like this and meetings like this, really giving their all to make our community better. And of course, to all of our state and local officials who are working. My husband is a state worker, and so we have a very fond outlook on civic folks who are not only working at the state level, but at the city level and county level as well. Heroes are not just all those police and fire, right? They're all the folks at public works and transportation and all of the things that make a city work. So thank you so much. The summer has been really quiet with the city, thank God, because spring was crazy. And so I don't have tons of updates for you. I did say that in my head when I was coming into this meeting, and then just kept making notes about things that I wanted to tell you about. So both Councilor Varney and I are just getting back from Denver for a week. We were over in Denver at a convention or a conference, and don't get too excited. It was about a right of way. So she and I serve on the board. Hold on, let me see if I can get it right. Mid-Willamette Valley. Oh Lord. Cable Regulatory Commission. There we go. I got it. And so we went to a conference and learned so much. She and I, of course, were just taking notes like crazy, and the ways in which cable regulatory is coming and changing in the future, and just so much. And so we're still processing, and we'll be meeting with staff over the next couple of weeks to process as well, and get all of those things to staff, and then also out to the community, which is what we've learned. So that has taken up a lot of my mind lately. But I did also want to say that before my conference, I went over to the Thursday market, got my kids here set up with all their fruit and stuff for the week that I was gone. And then also went down to the last Thursday event that Jason put on. And Jason, it was so lovely to see you there and to experience the event. I got some stuff, some free sushi that we did at one of the booths there. And then also I got myself a new book of poetry from one of our local artists. So lovely event, love to be out there. I wanted to just take a moment to talk about the concerns I've been hearing from folks in the Edgewater district, concerns about the path there and its ADA non-compliance. And of course, that was something that I knew about previously, but then during this last Thursday before last, when I was there, I got to experience it again and just really get refreshed on what the issues were. I've been hearing a lot about some public art that folks are wanting to do in the Edgewater district. I couldn't be more excited about that. Not only along the pathway there, but also within the neighborhood with some intersection art. I have heard continued complaints and concerns about speeding along Edgewater and the noise level from all of those cars. Just questions about why this is, I believe it's 30 miles an hour through there, but why it is that and why we can't get it reduced to 25, something much more like we have in the downtown area. Because this is one of those downtown-esque areas in West Salem with a lot of pedestrian traffic. So concerns there, and I'd love to help out with that. I've also been hearing some concerns about the 2nd Street design and the crossing there, and really some disappointment and frustration that we can't keep that temporary crossing at 2nd Street. I, for one, was very vocal all year about hoping to keep that and hoping to advocate for that. We never did hear back from city staff on who I should contact about that to help advocate for that. I see the public comment here from Robert. I couldn't agree more with what his frustrations and concerns are. So lots of people really frustrated when that little curb went in to kind of block off that crossing. So I would love to find out who I can speak with about that. Other big news is that our new city manager will be starting on the 12th. His name is Keith Staley. He's coming to us from Olympia, Washington, for those of you who don't know. Very, very excited about him coming on and seeing what we can do together in the coming years. We have some sad news, some frustrating news that we got about a housing project that was going to be going in north of Roth's in West Salem. And there was a really great program that an individual came to me and other council members and talked with us about a kind of a full service wraparound support housing for vets. And as you know, that's a concern that we have here in the city. We have a lot of veterans who need a lot of care and support. And so this project was really just wrapping all that up in a bunch of goodness. And I found out right before my trip to Denver that project has fallen through because of some lack of gap funding. So just weren't able to make it financially work, which I'm really heartbroken about. And that kind of leads me to my next conversation, which would be about the bond. And of course, in the bond, we have that chunk of money set aside for affordable housing. And this would have been one of those ways that we could have supported a project like this with some gap funding. So I'm disheartened that it's kind of all happening out of sync, right? If we would have had the bond passed, then we would have had this gap money available that hopefully maybe that project would have been able to continue on and finish to completion and really serve our neighborhood and our city in a way that's desperately needed. So on the positive side of the bond, of course, that's coming up in November. We have the Marine Drive project, which of course, I know all of you are very invested in. And the Union Street connection also is going to be really critical on the other side of the river for folks in West Salem. That I know I've talked to a lot of folks at the West Salem Neighborhood Association about that concern. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, that's the connection over the Union Street Bridge, but then it's the bike and pedestrian connection that's really kind of sketchy to get you all the way over Liberty Street. So that first couple of blocks, it's just kind of, nobody really knows where to go. How can we make this better? And just more efficient for folks who are riding bikes or walking. And so with that, I will stop talking and open it up. I'm just double checking my notes here as I talk slowly for any comments or questions for me.
Councilor Stapleton, thank you. Any questions for Virginia?
You had mentioned, good morning, Virginia. You had mentioned that there's a subdivision going out north of Wallace. Is that multi-family? Because they're just clearing it, like all the trees are down.
So it's hard for me to know which one exactly you're talking about. But I do know that there is development happening out there. The city actually has a land bank out there of some different properties that we're hoping to have Salem Housing Authority develop some housing out there, or possibly sell it to a developer to likewise do some housing development. And then I do know that the one that I was talking about with the veteran housing, that was going to be out there as well, but that project fell through. So I don't know of any that are actively going right now to be built, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening. There's a lot that happens that a city councilor doesn't always know about. So if you know about the area, email me on the side maybe, and I can try and get you an update on what's happening in the location that you have the question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. I will just jump in here, Virginia. When I heard about the veterans thing falling apart, I was really disappointed. I really am a big believer in some of that affordable housing, especially for veterans and some of the seniors across the board. Frankly, I think that things have gotten so expensive, but the veteran thing was a real bummer for sure. If anyone does not realize where that was, there is a memory care facility. It was right behind that towards the river. Kind of an interesting parcel because there's a right of way kind of right through it for future extension of Marine Drive, if I remember correctly. And so it's kind of two parcels, and the back parcel I think had some riparian type water floodway issues. I'm not sure if it was all fully buildable, but that would have been a really good project regardless out in that area. So that was a bummer. It'd be great to see that thing get revived with some sort of grant program. But nonetheless, if there isn't anything else for Virginia. Oh, Tom.
Yeah, I just have one quick thing. In regards to the bike path, I was on that recently, and just until something is done about it, if something's going to be done about it, the signage isn't very clear about what the best way to cross Wallace is at that point. If you're coming east to west, if you make a left turn there, it'll take you into a route where it actually will have a turnaround sign there, about a block and a half down the road. So, I mean, I don't know if some sort of signage might help, at least in the interim, to direct people where to go to best get across Wallace. So just something to put out there.
Yeah, thanks for that. We actually have a policy ride, a policy bike ride coming up on the 17th, where we're going to be crossing at that area and going along the ADA path, and also along Edgewater, where we have that, like, I think it's a 1.5 foot wide bike path that goes along all those car doors that are going to be opening and clotheslining all of us on our bikes. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I think I'm going to get my kids on bikes and have them come with me, because that always helps policymakers see just how dang dangerous all of this is, and which will then give them the conclusion of why folks aren't riding their bikes as much as they want them to. So all of that said, yes, signage is a problem across the city. I know there's one coming in on State Street. If you're heading west on State Street, you're supposed to turn and take a side street, but the signage is really bad, and it kind of just dumps you out into all of that traffic on State Street. So signage across the city would be very good, but it's nice to know of those little incidences, those spots that I can send an email and hopefully get some paint on the ground or a sign in the dirt would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Jason?
Good morning, everybody. I just want to thank the commissioner and the counselor for being here today, and thank you for your service. Would also like to, Jim and Tori, can we get these topics on our agenda quickly? I think that the West Salem Neighborhood Association, as well as Edgewater Partners, to my understanding, also are echoing the same issues with the business community with the speeding on Edgewater, the 2nd Street crossing, and also the Edgewater Trail accessibility issues. There's no way anybody with a wheelchair could navigate that at all. So I'm curious, what does it look like to get that on our agenda, have those discussions, have city staff come and present as to why or why not, or what is proactively being done. could we have a brief discussion on that?
Yeah, I'm happy to bring Kevin, the traffic engineer for the city of Salem, in to address these 3 items that were raised.
Will that be on the October or November schedule?
I can, yeah, we could have it for the October.
That would be great. And of course, this is you and Jeff create the schedule here. So I'm just putting in my concerns and recommendations.
No, yeah, you're all board members, so feel free to, I mean, the agenda is always open for comment. So you guys all help frame it. So if you have something you'd like to see or hear from.
Would Kevin also address the 2nd Street crossing and
yeah, he could speak to that.
the accessibility in the park? Would that be Parks and Recs and Public Works, or who would
So
be
that's
that?
That one is a little complicated because it's a kind of a joint project. It's technically ODOT right away, but I think the city and ODOT partnered to make that possible. So
Looks like we have someone from ODOT here. Hi, Anna.
yeah, we do.
I was curious. Hey, Anna, is there some way to get whoever we need to from the city and ODOT here in October or November to have that discussion? Councilor Stapleton, is your agenda open for that? So you could also be available?
I'll be here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Excuse me, just what's the date?
So it would be
I'm not a regular
October.
invite. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So, and you probably know this, it's I refer to it as a linear park. It's technically it follows Edgewater and Highway 22 through there. It's kind of a winding path, and there are some areas where
Sorry, I mean, what's the date of the meeting? I know what path you're referencing.
October 5th.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. And same time?
Yeah, it'd be a Zoom meeting, same time, 7:30.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if someone sends me an invite, I'm happy to attend.
Okay.
It would just be great to get some back history for the group here and then see how we could help. And even if we don't have funds to allocate it, this advisory board could certainly make recommendations to the city. Is that my?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Jason. We'll circle back around on future agenda items here at the end of the agenda. So with that, any other questions for Virginia before we move on? Mark?
Lyle's been raising his hand.
Oh, Lyle, please.
I just have a comment on the speeding on Edgewater. I know most of my contacts are now retired from the Salem Police Department, but if you will call down there and talk to them and tell them that you have this issue going on, they'll get an officer out there. West Salem does not have, we get one full-time officer for about 8 hours a day. That's all West Salem gets because we don't have the crime rates that they have in the rest of Salem. So they're also the first officer that gets called off duty. But when we have issues like this come up, if you'll call down there and let them know what's going on and give them a rough time frame of when it's happening, they'll get a couple of officers down there and they'll start patrolling that, writing a few tickets. It's amazing how fast that word passes throughout the community, and we'll get the speeds slowed back down. So they're great to work with. Just give them a call.
Thank you, Lyle.
Kevin handles, so it'll be a good topic for him to speak to. He handles speed on all roads through the city, and he could give an explanation on why. I was just checking to see what it is. It probably is 30 or something like that. If there's an opportunity to bring it down, what that process would entail, he would know.
A bit of a fun fact, there are a lot of police officers who live in West Salem that I know that wag their finger at me a few times as I'm rolling through West Salem. So that's always exciting. With that, Virginia, thank you for joining us. I hope you can stick around for a minute. We will now shift gears over to Anna and Astrid with ODOT, and I will turn it over to you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Astrid's going to lead this discussion. I'm just here to support her and answer any questions that folks may have. So again, this is Astrid Potter. She's our interim resident engineer, which is the our construction office manager. And I think, and you all, I may be out of it a little bit on this, but I think you initially had invited Vidal Francis to this meeting, and Astrid is the new Vidal for us. So thank you. And thanks, Astrid, for being here, and thanks for having us.
Thank you for taking the time.
Morning. So good morning. Like Anna mentioned, I think she gave my intro well enough, so I'm not sure that I need to go into that anymore. So I do have some information also on some of the upcoming projects. My specialty is the current projects. So that's where my knowledge is a little bit more in depth. Hopefully in 2025, the biggest one on this list is a seismic retrofit of the Center Street Bridge. So that's still in design, and it'll be a major project. This one, westbound Marion Street Bridge, is currently under construction, resurfacing or taking off the asphalt and resurfacing it. It was kind of a continual maintenance situation. We are going to be finishing by the end of October. We are definitely on schedule for that. We may even be a little bit ahead of schedule. This one I know a little bit less about, on 22 at Rickreall Road to Dokes Ferry. It's a corridor study, but we don't have funding for construction yet, so still under design. Orr's Corner to Clow Corner. This one is on track to start construction next year. We're going to be doing a roundabout at Clow Corner. Wait, I could have that backwards. I'm sorry. We're going to be doing safety improvements at both of the intersections. Fort Hill Road to AR4 Road. This is also a safety study for reduction of congestion at the intersection and in the corridor. Again, we don't have construction funding for this yet. It's still under design and study. ADA projects, these are pretty widespread and going on throughout the OR18 in Willamina and Sheridan corridor, as well as, well, they're not going on yet, sorry. They are planned. 223 and 99 West in Dallas and Rickreall. Those are scheduled for 2024. Perrydale Road to Kings Valley Highway. The design is continuing through 2024. We're hoping to start construction in 2025, and that'll go for two seasons. Michigan City Lane to Edgewater Street. This one is just now wrapping up. We do still have a little bit of punch list work, but the majority of the project is complete. And here we've got some QR codes for trip check for other information on current projects. So, do you have any questions?
On the last project you mentioned that you to the Wallace, I know it was accessibility and pavement improvements. It was raised. There was the temporary crossing at 2nd Street that has been removed. I know that there have been city concerns given the location, the speeds, at which people who are exiting from the bridges and entering West Salem. That was one of the reasons why it was temporary. I don't know if there was I don't know if you can speak to it, an ODOT perspective on that location and the temporary nature of that bike pedestrian flashing beacon during construction.
Anna,
Astrid, if you'd like to take this is Brian.
Okay.
So the temporary flashing beacon at 2nd Street was put in exclusively to move people across Wallace Road while they were working at the intersection of Edgewater and 2nd Street and Bassett. And so once all that work was complete and we had the crosswalk closures in and had the permitted crossings there, we took that out because, as you said, it wasn't a great location, but that was there to continue to move pedestrians across Wallace.
If this were to be pursued, if there's enough community interest to have a permanent location there, if the city were to raise that as something, would ODOT be opposed, or would that be something you'd have to review to see sight distances, speed, the vicinity to the bridge heads? Would you have to look at that further, or?
I can maybe, this is Anna, I can maybe answer that. Sorry, Brian, just popping in here. I think it would have to go through our traffic analyst to determine whether or not that would work for our system and be safe for pedestrian crossing. Okay. So I don't have enough history on that to know whether or not it's been asked before, and we've already got, maybe Brian does know that. If folks need us to look at it again, then I can reach out to region traffic folks and ask them. Brian, do you have any other information on that?
I don't have any other information. I mean, I think, as you said, it would have to be something that would be looked at. I mean, I think with the congestion that's already in there, it would be difficult to put something in there at that location. Yeah, that's all I've got.
Mark, please.
Yeah, so thank you all. Anna, specifically, if you're coming back potentially next month, between now and then, any research you could do on potential crossings between, the bridge landing at Edgewater and Taggart to the north would be helpful. This board going back, oh man, Lyle could comment. I mean, it goes way back, has been looking at figuring out ways of getting people east to west across Wallace. And I'll just say, from the board's perspective, it's sort of consistently run into, well, ODOT won't allow that. And that's not a complaint, but our understanding at this point is very simple, and that is ODOT won't let us do anything. And I'm sure that's really not the case at the end of the day. But rather than community members or members of this board bringing forward some idea that just won't fly, I've looked at maybe turning this around to saying, okay, well, if we wanted to get across Wallace in some fashion, somewhere between the bridge landing and Taggart, how might that be accomplished? What would be ODOT's preferred way if that was really a community need? And maybe starting on that side as opposed to us just throwing things at the wall and seeing what might stick.
Yeah, Mark, would you mind? I don't think the chat is active for me. I was going to try to, oh yeah, maybe I can. I was going to try to throw in my email. No, it says it's disabled. To have you send me an email specifically asking what you want me to research a little bit before the October 5th meeting, if that's possible. And maybe someone, I know Lyle has my email, but maybe I can look at the invite and get your email, and then I'll shoot you one. Would that work?
Absolutely.
Okay. Happy to come and do some research on that.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, we've looked at this for 20 years. We've studied it. And with ODOT and the city, and one of the best answers we came up with was a flyover onto the Center Street Bridge. So come up between where the pathway does, but bring it elevated up over. With the third bridge coming in, they didn't want to invest the money in putting in a pedestrian crossing right in that area because it's so congested. And anytime we stop traffic, it backs it even farther up the bridge. So that's why all of the work that was done there on the Edgewater 22 intersection right there, Edgewater Wallace Road, to eliminate that light from traffic heading west, to shorten that, and they freed up and extended that. Remember, the old street light used to block all the traffic right there. So a lot of work was done, but for the pedestrians, until the third bridge came in, they didn't know how to do it. But that was the only one that we found that might be feasible, but still it was pretty expensive to do. So, but now that the third bridge has been killed, maybe it's something that we could revisit again and to make happen.
You know, thanks, Lyle, for that. That was actually a point of conversation recently, was that there have been a lot of things waiting on other things, and maybe some of those things aren't going to happen. And so it's time to refresh our look at what is possible 20 years on, because I know it's been at least that long. Virginia?
Yeah, thanks. I think what I would also like to see in this conversation is kind of a reality check on the timeline of things. You know, we would all love to see a pedestrian bridge that goes over, right? And so there's a real clean separation between folks who are riding and biking and folks who are driving their cars for complete safety for everybody involved. But, you know, you said you've been working on this for 20 years. A bridge like that is probably just that much farther out in reality as far as construction and as far as funding. And so I would love to have a conversation about what is going to work for now with what we have, because I know that, you know, in the future would be great. It would be great to have all those things, and it's great to have those plans. But what are we doing right now to not only provide some form of safe crossing there, because folks are going to cross there. They're not, you know, folks are always going to take that straight line if they can. But what's also going to create a safe area for folks who are walking and biking, and also folks who are driving. And I always get pushback on that idea that it's going to cause more traffic. And of course, folks with my belief structure in this would say, well, if we had better infrastructure for folks who are biking or walking, then maybe less people would drive their cars. So I think there's a balance to be found in all of that. But I would like that conversation to exist and to be robust when we come back together and try and figure out some way to not lose this connectivity that folks have come to really enjoy while it's been there. So thank you.
If I could add too, I'm just curious, since we have the group from ODOT on the line, if you were able to collect data, because I knew that there were concerns about the vicinity of the bridgehead, the speeds that people are exiting the bridge and entering West Salem, because that turn is pretty tight, you know, especially on a green light. I mean, everyone's racing to get through that before it turns red. But I'd be curious to know, because I think, I don't know if it was for like at least a year, I think that temporary crossing was there. I don't know if you collected data to kind of support, you know, if this were to be pursued, how everything operated, because as was mentioned, you know, the congestion's there regardless. I don't know that the flashing beacon, when it was there, contributed to additional congestion. So it would be helpful to have some of that data if you collected it.
Tony, I don't know the answer to that, but I can check into it. When it's temporary like that, we probably don't do any like official counts or studies, but but there may be something. So I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm just kind of scanning to see if anyone is unmuted or has a hand up for either any of our guests at this point. And I'm not seeing any. If there's any other questions, now is probably the time for either Lyle or Virginia or ODOT. Otherwise, we are going to move forward in our agenda. So with that,
Thank you for
I just
having
want to. Yeah, thank you all for joining us today. You're certainly welcome to stay on and listen to the rest of the earth-shattering things that we're going to talk about. But if you don't want to, I totally understand. We're not splitting the atom here. So
Thank
Anyway.
you.
With that, have a great day.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day. So Tori, I think it is time to turn it over to you. You have an update on the vacancy or the vacation of First Street, and there was a grant or something of 25,000 that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so this is just seeking a recommendation. So in the agenda packet, there's kind of the breakdown of what the project entails. And so really what we're seeing here is an opportunity. Here, I'll just bring it up so you can, well, it's in the packet as well as far as the location, but I'll share my screen. So this is the breakdown of the recommendation. So what we're looking at here is you can see Goodwill to the east. First Street used to run through this location, and as you can see, the majority of it was vacated around 2015 to make way for the construction of the Goodwill. So it leaves this remnant piece here, and you can see in the bottom right corner, and if you go into the West Salem area or if you go on Street View, you can see the condition of the street. So really, if you there to the north, there's a completely greenfield redevelopment site. There's interest in develop this whole area, and anyone that comes in at this point would be responsible to bring this to city standards. So it'd be like a local street classification. So they'd have to put in all new road, sidewalks, street trees, all those things, and it really doesn't go anywhere. So what happens is you have this small section of First Street, and then it connects to what is right now called Melinda Avenue Northwest. So it's another small sliver. And so what we're looking to do is alleviate this. So to help these properties redevelop, there's a street here that really doesn't contribute to anything as far as like mobility other than accessing the back of these properties, and that'll be addressed as far as what we'll probably look at is with Melinda Street, probably convert that into a cul-de-sac so it provide access to the parking lot to Goodwill and the back of some of these properties, but really just remove that burden of having to build it to city street standards. So go through a process. It's a public process to have city council consider the vacation of, basically removing this as a street. So that's basically what I framed here in the breakdown. We'd be seeking engineering services. It costs about $25,000. That's what we estimated. To bring somebody on, we have to have somebody come in and do survey work, legal description, and then help us through the process to the public process to vacate. So that's what's in front of you with the action item as a recommendation to the agency. As far as timing, we're looking at a staff report to the agency board September 12th to see where they land on this topic. And then as far as, if it were to get approved and funded, we'd reach out to the engineering consultant. We anticipate hopefully having everything complete. Again, it's public process, so that could be longer, but we anticipate, within this calendar year, we could probably get this done. Any questions?
Jason, go ahead.
Tori, what's the impact to the property owners? I guess if we're vacating this, does it then become an accessible alleyway? Is the city keeping it as that for emergency vehicles, or how does that? And then from an owner, the property owners there, because it's all undeveloped on either side there. I think somebody came in and proposed was an apartment complex more towards the Second Street side of it, and
to the north, on Second Street, right. And
then the two corner lots on Molark and Edgewater are currently still for sale. They've been sitting there. I'm surprised. I'm always curious as to why nobody has brought that property yet. But I guess what's the impact to, if we approve this, to those property owners for their future development, and to be able to sell and transfer that property, because I'd like to see it get developed. So how does this help future development? And you probably said that. I just, I've done things 2 or 3 times before I catch on.
Sure. So we have been coordinating with the developer, and that's where, so there has been a site plan review, and it was pretty constrained because there's a floodplain through here, and they were notified that they'd have to improve First Street. So they're supportive, and it's the same developer that they bought this whole property here and also acquired this property. The only one that's remaining is so there's the parking lot to Goodwill, and then this is like, I don't know, it's like book bin. There's like a bookstore right here. Majority of their vehicular, their public traffic, and their customer access is off Edgewater. There's workers that get into the back, and so that's where, like I mentioned, we'd probably approach something. We'd have to work with Public Works on likely a cul-de-sac that would connect. You mentioned too, as far as emergency access, we'd probably maintain an emergency access easement. So, you'd similar to like an alleyway. So you'd have something there for secondary access, but it wouldn't have to be built to, for this length. You wouldn't have to build it to like a full street standard. If that answers your question. So I guess, they're supportive because it will help alleviate the burden. They'd be able to, instead of dedicate funds to improve a really short street that doesn't go anywhere, to the project, and they're looking at doing something a little bit different with all the properties now that they have, now they've acquired those properties. So it'll probably look different than what we've seen previously.
And is it better for the burden of this to be vacated on the city or the property owners?
So it's a smoother process for the city than it is for the private.
Okay.
Because it's a city property. It's a little bit of a different process if it were to be pursued on a public side. There have been talks internally with Public Works for years about vacating this. It's just one of those things where there's so many other things happening. It's not ever really been a priority. And so it's just one of those things where I think that to me, in my opinion, that seems like kind of a low-hanging fruit. It's an opportunity to refine an area, make it so it can work for redevelopment potential in a quick time frame.
So when I think about priorities, and I think about ADA accessibility for the citizens of Salem, and we've got something over on Edgewater that we could be spending $25,000 on, or something that is not really used by the general public in the first place, how do we justify spending $25,000 or approving that for something here when we have a walkway that the improvements of a permanent fixture and those sidewalks? When Councillor Stapleton's coming forward and saying, hey, these are some things in the community, we have a lot of other community members saying, hey, we need this. How do we, I guess, where's the priority and of the spending this money? I mean, what does this do immediately for the general public?
So again, with urban renewal, it's tied to blight. And so these are properties that have sat vacant for years. And so removes blight. I mean, that's fundamentally the purpose of urban renewal. So that's the priority. So I understand urban renewal funds they're complicated to use for maintenance. If we were to lay down, we've done the multi-use path and the Walt Spring Park. So typically with something new, it's a capital improvement. It's simple, where this is ODOT right of way. It's a Public Works project. When I reached out to Public Works, they said it would likely have to be in the capital improvement plan. That's not something overly complicated if there's funding for it, which urban renewal probably could be, but we'd have to break into this a little bit more. We have to understand the nuances, the complexity, and where we could play a role. So I think it's good to have an ongoing conversation to see where those funds could apply. And we could probably still do it, but I think it's a little bit more complicated than this one.
I appreciate complexity, and I think the forward motion to simplicity of how it all works is also important for a citizen board. That's just my comment. I'd also make the comment that the great strength of this board, this advisory board, is its ability to vote on matters like this and say, well, there are other things in the community that we may not be able to spend our money on in urban development. But if we're not seeing these other things occur in the community, we really need to see those things come to the table before we vote on spending additional money in the areas that the money is meant to be spent for. And I just would like to, I'd like to share that opinion with everybody else who sits on this board.
Thank you, Jason. Mark?
Yeah, so Jason, I mean, thanks for bringing all that up. I guess the thing that I would add is that we're not working down a list consecutively in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, and only that order. This is parallel paths on many things at once. So while I wholeheartedly support what you're expressing as far as needs in other areas, I don't see this as either or at all. This can be and. Both things can happen. And the thing that's before us right now is, as Tori said, sort of low-hanging fruit, slam dunk, and goes to the core of what this board does, redevelopment. So without in any way rejecting the other items that you've pointed out and accepting that, I think we can do both. And I think this is something that we should do. There's virtually no reason other than the points that you've made to not do this.
We agree, Mark.
Okay.
I agree with that. I just think that there's so many new faces here. And I think sometimes it's really understanding, when you sit on an advisory board, what is your role? What is your ability to influence, the ability to affect change within your community, how the city functions, how, where all of those things. And I do think that, when Tori talks about complexity, there's so many things going on all at the same time. And this is low-hanging fruit. And I will vote to move this forward. But it is an opportunity to also kind of talk about those things along the way. And just, I think I've served on this board for almost a year now. And I'm just kind of finding my footing a little bit and understanding how this board fits into the bigger picture. I think it takes time. So, and we do have new members.
No, they're all great points. I mean,
Great points.
That trail is amazing over there. I'd love to see it improved, and we can have ongoing conversations about how we can help fix it.
And Mark and Jeff, especially, and Tori, your historical, your ability to bring historical framework to the conversation is invaluable to this board as well. So I'd just like to say that and thank you.
Thanks, Jason. I will concur with what you said. Tori heard me express numerous times in my first couple of years how difficult it was just to get oriented on what this board's scope was and what we could do. So I very much remember what it was like in my first 12 months or so. So points well made.
Yeah, and I would echo the same sentiment, Jason. I would also dovetail in with kind of what Mark is saying. I think part of the role of this group is to, and Tori touched on it, a blighted area. But to me, from a commercial real estate standpoint, if the board can do something that would allow a parcel to be redeveloped, that would in turn create higher tax funds for our urban renewal, is a big part of what I see in something like this. If that parcel could be redeveloped quicker or easier for multifamily or whatever that is, if it's a $10 million development, I'm just throwing that number out, I have no idea. what can be done there. But let's, if you just use that and extrapolate out the millage rate, we can calculate, well, it's going to bring in X amount of dollars for this urban renewal to do additional things down the road. So I tend to look at things that way as well. I agree with you that there's a lot of things that we could be doing. And so historically, the thought has always been, let's just hold money so that we can do these big projects down the road. And I think Mark's done a great job of over the last year or so, kind of saying, well, hey, maybe we need to reconstruct what that looks like in our minds. He brought it up earlier today with ODOT and Councillor Stapleton. So I think that these are good kind of evolutions to the group and how we could refocus on what we're doing. So thank you for the input. So with that,
I'm looking for an action here, and I kind of spelled it out at the program description. If you look at it as a detachment, so it talks about the proposed action. This is just a suggestion. So if it goes a different way, by all means, it's just a framework for you to start that process.
So in other words, Tori, you're looking for someone to
looking for a recommendation and action.
A recommendation,
yeah.
A motion.
Quick question for the group, real quick. Since this project touches, my property as a business owner there, is this something I actually need to abstain from if it gets to a vote, or?
I think it's up to you. I think noting that it, it's near your property, or the property that you manage, for the record. I think as long as you make clear that it's not, but you could also abstain. You don't have to vote. You could frame it however you want. I think it's good to have it noted for the record.
So with that, go ahead. Sorry,
John, if you were going to abstain, do you have an opinion one way or the other on this, or would you like to bring one forward?
I'm for this project. So I oversee the Goodwill operations, and so this would be a great thing for us because that whole area back there is kind of a mess. So if there's an opportunity to vacate, redevelop, and all those great things, we would be for that. So
we're ready for a motion?
I move that the board recommends the vacation of First Street to the Urban Renewal Agency. That makes sense.
Yeah.
We're making a recommendation that they approve the vacation. Correct, Tori? That's what you're looking for?
Sure. I think Samantha, were you doing a second? I saw a thumbs up. Are you doing a motion? That's what I interpreted there.
So when we're all done, the board would just formally recommend the vacation to the Urban Renewal Agency.
So what we're seeking right now is, so what I have in here is recommendation that Urban Renewal Agency authorize the use of $25,000 for an engineering consultant to start the process. So it's really, you could simply done just say that you as a board recommend the vacation of First Street. You could say it that way, but we're just we'll be going to the agency to seek use of the $25,000 to engage an engineering consultant for the work.
So I will amend my motion. That I move that this board recommends the allocation of $25,000 for the study of vacating First Street. I need more caffeine.
Perfect.
Definitely more acceptable, Mark. Thanks.
Okay.
So Samantha, is that a second for clarity of the revised motion?
Absolutely. Second.
Okay. So with that, is there any discussion? Tom, I saw you unmuted. Did you want to throw something in?
No, I just have to leave in a few moments. So if I need to have anything on the record, I can do it now. Or if we're going to vote in a few minutes, I can do that too.
Okay. Well, is there any further discussion on the motion at hand? Motion that's on the table? Okay. There's no further discussion, then we can just take a quick vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. And one abstention. John, did you abstain from the vote?
Yep, correct.
Okay. And so there was no nays. So motion passes. Thank you, Mark and Samantha, for bringing forward the motion. Tori, you have what you need to now move forward with that allocation of the $25,000.
Yep, thank you.
I just ask that the person typing up the minutes is kind to me and how that's worded.
Good. The lucky thing for you, Mark, is it's recorded forever and
Yeah.
there's no one typing it up.
The minutes are
It wasn't
actually
that
pretty
bad.
vague.
Yeah.
The minutes are like, here's this agenda item.
Yeah,
and
no, it
the,
is pretty
the last
vague.
names of the
Yeah.
people who spoke to it, but nothing in between.
Yeah, there's recordings, so you could listen to it or watch it, I guess.
Yeah.
And the amount of people
Yeah.
who actually watch the videos on the YouTube channel, no, it's not that many.
I've watched them too. It's been a while. I haven't watched the last couple, but I will go back and watch them. So,
I have
totally
watched them. I have watched them and I do not recommend it for myself. I can tell you that. I didn't think I looked like that, and I don't think I sound like that. And then I was like, damn.
So true.
All right. Well, that's perfect. Let me get back to the agenda here. Sorry, I'm way down on the. Well, with that, that's the last motion. Now it's just open for discussion on further action items or topics for the future. I know Jason has some. Tom's already jumped off. So, Jason, do you want to go back and have any conversation or recommendations for future in October, November?
I mean, I made my recommendations. Unless we need to have further discussion, I don't know that I need to repeat them. I just wanted to.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think Tori's already on that, and yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess what would help is the particular location. So when I went through it, I saw multiple locations where it seems like old trees create some upheaval of the existing walk. Is that correct? So really across the whole thing, like obviously you encounter some of that. It'd be almost impossible to do wheelchair over that obstacle. Did you have a particular spot, or is it really just throughout the whole path?
Yeah, there I believe are 3 spots. And I think the only way to maybe kind of correct 2 of them on kind of straightaways, one of them is between Patterson and McNary on the Edgewater Trail. And then the other one is right as you're coming off the bridge. So more at the junction there of going onto the Center Street Bridge, the entryway onto Edgewater Trail there. That's right behind the West Side Station. Those 2 are the biggest concern. And then the third one, I think, is also between McNary and Patterson. And I don't know how you would fix those other than maybe, because you don't want to get rid of the trees there, but you might make just a little U-shape, connecting them. Brand new construction, just connecting one to the other, leave the old there, put a pretty painting there or something. I don't know what you do with it. Dig it up, put some bark mulch on top of it, but you could create just new sections, brand new, not an actual repair, but new sections to kind of, at least on the flat straightaways, the one directly behind the West Side Station, that one is beyond my imagination of how that one gets fixed.
Okay.
That needs to be left up to somebody else.
All right. Well, what I'll do is I'll go through there and I'll take photos. It's hard, I know, because I think there have been in the previous updates without reference. It's hard to see that. So I'll do what I can to try and have that available for viewing and for the topic.
Yeah. The only thought on the second, I mean, I don't have anything on the Second Street crossing, but the speed on Edgewater, and I don't know that that's anything that this group decides on anything of that nature, but it is, to me, it makes sense. I mean, in the downtown corridor, it's 25. This is a business district that's evolving. It should be 25. People are still going to go 30, and we can get some officers out here. I'm going to have my assistant call as soon as we're done, start that process. See if we can get some speed traps on here. Those aren't my favorite thing, but definitely, I don't think we need to punish the community for something that could just be easily fixed by the city. And try and decrease that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So moving on, kind of the last thing is updates from organizations. Samantha, you're on the Business Association. Can you just chime in real quick and give us an update what's going on there?
Sorry, my mouse is doing something weird. We're bringing back the morning greeters. Our next morning greeters, and again, morning greeters is a chance to let local businesses showcase themselves and gets people together to network. So the next one is on the 13th, and I'm so sorry, I'm coming back from vacation from being gone for a while. It's the location out, it's the Hope. They used to have the horses, and they deal with the youth and rehabilitation. It's off of 22 Rick Rial Center for Hope. Anywho, he joined West Salem Business Association. They do super great things. I personally didn't know it even existed. We're working on getting into Keystone Granite. We have our last Thursday greeters or luncheon, and actually Tori Banford is going to be guest speaker. Really excited about that. So yeah, we're just, good things are happening.
Thank you.
Yes, I draw large crowds. Worth visiting.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to go to that luncheon, it looks like.
Yep. And I'd love to see all of you guys there for sure.
Well, if Tori's there, I got to go.
Definitely. So that's what's going on. Just
Thank you,
again,
Samantha.
yeah, you bet. That's all I have.
Perfect. Jason, anything from Edgewater Partnership or anything like that?
Yeah, Edgewater Partners and West Salem Neighborhood Association, separate organizations. Edgewater Partners always meets fourth Thursday of the month. So I believe it'll be on the 22nd. But if they're following suit to the last Thursday, then it would be the 29th. Just throwing that out there. It's at 9 a.m. and it is open to anybody in the community. Edgewater Partners, if those of you who don't know or anybody watching in, is overseeing, is kind of a subgroup of Salem Leadership Foundation that funds these smaller neighborhood connector groups that are put together, kind of grouped by the high school. They kind of look at the high school districts, and so our feeder is West. They're generally funded every quarter to 6 months with some dollars to be able to spend out in the community. So if you have a community-based project that you are interested in finding support for, that's a great group to get together with. They've done things like beautification walks where they do garbage pickups and weeding. They did a beautification project on Edgewater. They've supported other things like the community market, having coffee chats with our city councilors at the Salem Community Market and things of that nature. So they're pretty involved, great group. I also want to just kind of say thank you to the West Salem Business Association and that group for having flexibility so that people can participate in both. West Salem Neighborhood Association has changed its monthly general meeting to the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. And they've changed that so that discussions in regards to issues coming up, land use issues or anything else that might be addressed at the next Monday city council meetings can be discussed at the neighborhood level and then brought forward in public testimony later on. So that was an important change for the group. Nominations are being taken this evening. So that means the meeting is tonight at 7 p.m. for September. And there are some current vacancies for secretary. Looks like there's already nominations on the floor for the current chair. Mike Friedis, the vice chair, myself, and the secretary, the treasurer. But anybody else who attends regularly, there are, if anybody wanted to take a leadership role there, you do have to attend a certain amount of general meetings prior to submitting a nomination. The election for officers will occur at the October general meeting. I think I'm in charge of all that stuff as vice chair. You know, there's a lot of land use issues. So if you're interested in land use and want to, there's always reports there, and West Salem Neighborhood Association land use chairs. Steve Anderson is pretty involved. And thank you, Tori, for all the work that you do with the group. I think that's it. Councilor Varney will be there with a bond update tonight. So if you're interested or have any questions for Councilor Varney, great time. We always have a representative from Salem PD, which is fantastic. They show up consistently. We're really appreciative of their presence. That's all I got, folks. Thank you.
Hey, just really quickly, Acres of Hope is the name of the business that the morning greeters will be at, Acres of Hope. And then also really quickly, Tori, are you going to need a projector?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Figured I'd catch you while. Okay. Cool.
One last thing, I just maybe order of business. I would love to know why the chat is not open and available to members of this advisory board. Obviously, anything placed in the chat would be public record. But if I need to quickly make a comment, I would like the chat to be open and for board members to be able to either exchange information during the meeting.
Yeah, I think that's the main point is a public record. It's not that we can't copy and paste it. I think there are maybe some administrative complexities to that, but I'll have to check on that. I think that's why it was disabled. I'll look into it. I agree. I think it's, when you're in there, it's helpful to be able to exchange back and forth. Just know that even if you are messaging between like one person to another, it'll still all be public record. So anyway, I'll look into it.
Not trying to make Irma's job any more difficult or yours, Tori, but it's just a nice feature.
Yeah.
Just a nice feature.
Yeah, it is a nice feature.
Okay. Well, with that, we are at the end of our agenda. We're about 6 minutes away from 9 o'clock anyway, so probably a good time to wrap up. Always a pleasure to see everyone. Thank you for your participation in this group and this board. And unless there's anything else for the group, I hope everyone has a great day.
Nice
You
to
too.
see everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Good to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.